Today I'm going to help you answer the question of how to know when it's time, and I'm going to use an interview I had with a friend who recently euthanized his dog, and we're going to go through the progression, and I'm going to highlight some main things for you to look for to prevent having that last distressing day.
Which, when it came time to make the decision, was easy. The hard part was did I wait a day too long? That's the hard part. But we actually didn't bring her to the vet until the daytime behavior changed. So
Okay.
we missed that one, right? I knew something was wrong, but to go to, oh, this is something we need to get to a vet, just, something was changing and it just didn't click.
And that's so normal. That's why I started this channel. It's normal for people to not understand how important that is. But I would say in all the years, that's like one of the biggest signs. That is a way bigger sign than not eating. And everyone looks to, are they eating? Oh my gosh, today they didn't eat. But if they wake you up in the middle of the night in that kind of distressed, panting, frantic, pacing, that is a very big sign.
Yeah, and lesson learned for next time. Nice to know after the 7 I counted, but also grew up with probably 9 or 10 dogs in my life. Still learning. And so as it meant, now the daytime behavior gets us to the vet, and of course, we don't know what's going on. And
Hi, I'm Dr. Christina, the pet advocate, and today we're joined with my friend Dave, who's going to tell us a very real and recent story, his journey of making the euthanasia decision. Nothing we talk about today is meant to replace good veterinary medical care. This is just a discussion for your information. So today, my friend Dave was willing to get on a call to share about his experience with making the euthanasia decision for his dog, Chip, and what he went through. It's been about a day. This was last night?
yeah, I mean,
Or
4 o'clock.
ago.
Yeah, the vet came over at 4 o'clock. So yeah, we're 24 hours.
24 hours. He's willing to get on a call and share his experience to help some of you guys. So, all right, Dave, well, why don't you walk me through? I know we talked several weeks ago because things were starting to not be normal with Chip, and the process that you went through from then to make the decision.
Yeah, and thankfully, because we are friends, and I knew your work. I had you as a resource. As you know, so Chip was an 11-year-old, mutt. They said she was a golden retriever, although she was all black, and nor did she know how to fetch a ball. So she neither retrieved nor was golden. When I met you, I was obviously a resource I was familiar with. And frankly, what shocked me was how little I knew in spite of all that experience. So, as I said, Chip was 11 years old, and her routine started changing noticeably and dramatically probably a month, maybe a month and a half ago. She started getting clingy, and she would start banging on the door and then coming in. She got really, really clingy. She were from needing to just be on her own or whatever, and having to go play ball 5-6 times a day, which was the norm. She loved playing ball. To needing to be by my side. She'd hit my hand and stuff. We're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, getting your attention.
Yeah. And so we took her to the vet, and she had high blood pressure was the only thing that came back with. But it was just over the blood pressure limit. So it could have been stress of being at the vet. We weren't real sure. All the other tests and a little bit of protein in her urine, but her kidney numbers came back. So they're like, we don't know. We're like, all right, we don't know. What are we going to do? And I think they gave us gabapentin initially, just so she could sleep because she was up at night. That was the other. Oh, that's really how it started. Sorry. It started with, because I wake up in the middle of the night and she's up and pacing and panting and just instead of just laying there.
And I'm just going to interrupt real quick. So being up at night, pacing, that's a sign of distress for an animal. That's a really clear sign of distress. So, and the first thing they gave you was gabapentin, which is a pain medication. So they were thinking maybe in case she's in pain.
Yeah, well, they didn't know, and she had hip dysplasia. We knew that already. So could have been that, but well, there are babies, and whatever it takes, we want them to have great quality of life. Um, and so we got her stable. We did have her coming up on our bed. Fortunately, we have a Cal King, and we're not big people, so we have room for her. We had to figure that out a little bit. And for the most part, she was doing pretty good for, like I said, a few weeks. But on
And that's, I think, when we talked, when you got the trazodone, you watched the videos,
yes,
and then you kind of felt prepared to kind of just watch her the next few weeks. She was sleeping through the night.
yeah. Well, we discovered no. So it was at first she was, and then we had to add the gabapentin to get her to sleep through the night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was, and of course, well, I'll come back to that in a second because there was something else. Oh, the videos. So the videos were really, really helpful for me. I watched them all. My wife watched the quality of life with me, but not the pain one. And I think you need to watch them both. But some of the most important things that for me came out of it, one is the whole concept of coping, but the other one was the idea of being bright, because that was something I was really keyed into. It's like, she's bright, and she was. She was alert, she was bright, and so I knew she was still enjoying life. And by the way, she loved playing ball. Like, that was the best thing. And so, of course, my wife, who's a retired attorney, started researching. At this point, we had a fairly good idea it was some sort of dementia. And I don't remember if you mentioned that or other vet or both of you, whoever that came from, but it was like we were pretty confident because there was no real medical diagnosis other than dementia. And I think there's an important lesson because, my mother went through that. And in people, dementia, I mean, lasts for years. And the progression was really slow. And I don't know that she got mentally demented real fast, but she certainly decompensated real fast to the
I
point.
will say that we do see senility in animals, and it is usually a lot slower. So it does make me think that doesn't mean she didn't have signs of senility due to something else. I'm going to jump in here because what's important about this story is that we do not have a definitive diagnosis. And at this point, Dave and his wife had assumed dementia. It's okay to make guesses and it's okay to not have a diagnosis. But once we are confident that it's just dementia, we stop looking for things that could be causing more physical distress or pain. And what I'm hearing is a lot of anxious behavior. And the reality is we may not ever know what the cause is. But I'm curious to hear what did it look like to progress? What did you guys see? How did it progress?
Yeah. So as I said, first at night, the need of gabapentin. She did get better during the day, though, which was the interesting part. Meaning, she stopped. She would come and lay here with me, but she wouldn't be bumping my hand, looking for attention the whole time. She was content as long as she was in the room with me, and I would go out a couple times, more than a couple times, like 4, 5, 6, depending on how busy my schedule was, times a day, and play ball with her. We're on an acre, so it's probably 300 feet or more to the back fence line. And I wouldn't throw it all the way because of her hips. She can't run like that after more. But we would go the whole distance and sort of go big circuit around a couple times. So I wanted to get that energy release. And that certainly, and she loved that. I mean, ears forward, eyes bright, tails wagging like her old self. She absolutely loved playing ball.
I want to point something out here too that I think is helpful. While she was bright, so that's a good thing to look at. One of the things since I made the videos too, I really noticed is that while our animals can be bright and feeling good, we're noticing those other symptoms that are about to overtake them. So before it overtakes them, they certainly can be this happy and this energetic. And we can't ignore, and I don't want our audience to ignore if they see something just because we see a dog that's really energetic and interested in going to the park or playing ball, that it doesn't cancel out what we're seeing. And I think Chip's a great example of that because both were going on at the same time. And I think that's what makes it really tricky for people to understand that there could be something really serious going on because how can there be something serious? And my dog's like doing all this running around and looks like they feel great otherwise.
Yeah, and in our case, we knew something serious was going on. The really tricky part is the timing piece.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I haven't gotten to making a decision yet, which when it came time to make the decision was easy. The hard part was did I wait a day too long? That's the hard part. And a day too long is certainly better than a month too long.
Yeah.
Or a week too long.
Yeah. But
a day too long is still too long. And we're human, and I have to give myself some grace and my wife some grace. We didn't come to. It wasn't a selfish like, oh, we want to keep her with us. God forbid, no. Right. That was not it. It's just you don't know, and this is the biggest challenge because, like with humans, we can talk to each other, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't with your pets. They try. That's what they're doing. That's what she was doing,
Yeah. And that's why we're doing this video today, is because hopefully someone else who maybe hasn't even had the experience with dogs before, or like you said, you may have had a lot of dogs, but you've never had a dog wake you up in the middle of the night or, try to get your attention like this. And it might help someone realize, oh, we should go to the vet. I think another good point is, you run blood work. We do some basic diagnostics. It doesn't mean she doesn't have something just because we don't see it on the basic diagnostics. And that's okay. I tell people at the end, it's okay. We follow her behavior. And that's what you did. You followed her behavior. You just, tried to treat her symptomatically the best you could. And then, so tell me again, so how did it progress? Because she's going on walks. How did you know then? What did you see when you were like, oh, we definitely know we need to do it now?
Well, so when she didn't want food anymore.
Okay.
Right. But even that wasn't a sudden switch, right? Okay. She started, so let's go healthy Chip. And I take her outside and, a couple other animals in the property I have to take care of too. And then she would get fed and she was eager for food. Okay. And she got fed twice a day. We didn't leave food out for her. She had fed twice a day and she was eager for food. That's healthy Chip. We get her switched to this new diet. And at first she was like really into it and then not so much. And then it was like, she'll leave it there and won't eat first thing in the morning. But we were because it was a new diet and we were trying to figure out the calories, and they had the recommendations. And so we were actually weighing her food. So I knew how much she was consuming. And she was consuming the correct, and I was weighing her. We have a dog scale. We bought a vet dog scale years ago. We actually bought it for our 150-pound tortoise, but it's a useful tool to have. I'm weighing her fairly regularly, and I'm starting to see some more loss. And so I started seeing some weight loss, and like now we're measuring, really looking at her food, and we're getting to the point now we're now augmenting the food with tasty stuff, peanut butter, watered down Lebna, chicken broth, the things, and she was eating her, 23 to 25 ounces a day. And that should have been a warning sign though, that we're working to get her.
You're enticing her appetite. So she has some appetite loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're enticing it, which we do. And I see people do all the time. And I think what I'm hearing through all of this is the realization, or I would like people to have the realization, that we're not fixing anything. We have an elderly dog that has something significantly wrong. We don't know what it is. And so any sign in this period is a progression. That's how I look at it. It's like it's the next progression. So they all kind of start to, go ahead.
Yeah, there's something that you just said, something that I also think, a lot of your listeners probably are like me, have had a long history with dogs, and some not. And if you had, so I said 2013 was a bad year. The two litter mates, Dakota and Napoleon, were 70-pound pointer mix, some hound pointer mix. Who knows what it was a topic of conversation for years in the vets, what they were. They were cool, great dogs. but they were about the same size as Chip. And they lived to 13, I think it was, right? And so you start in your mind thinking, okay, she's got a couple more years. She's the same size dog.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a couple more years. I had a 70-pound pitty, two 70-pound, well, one of them had medical issues but I had 70-pound biddies that were living 12, 13 years. She's got more time.
Yeah, and it's just like with us, some people make it to 94, some people make it to 74.
Yeah.
So you're right. There are dogs her breed. It wouldn't be uncommon to live to 13 or her size. But yeah, and it all comes down to, that's why I'm like, whether we have a diagnosis or anything, we got to follow the dog's signs. The dog is telling us.
Yeah.
How she's acting is telling us everything. Because I've seen other clients kind of confuse themselves with, well, there's nothing wrong. I've heard people say in your exact situation, there's nothing wrong, and what they mean is nothing's been diagnosed. But that doesn't mean something's wrong. And yeah, so keep going. Yeah,
that's interesting too, because my wife and I had that conversation. It'd be so much easier if we had a diagnosis.
Oh, it would have been.
Go to the internist, because she was great, and she, it's like, because it just so much more. I hate to use the word satisfying, but satisfying to know, okay, we have a diagnosis, and this is what the progression is going to be, and this is what to expect. It's the unknown, and you just don't know. So
you don't know, but I hope that my hope is to give people a little bit of certainty in the uncertainty, and that's because what you're describing is a very common progression for a lot of disease processes. So even if we don't know what it is, as long as we're following the progress, how it's progressing.
Yeah, and I guess that's the point I'm trying to obliquely make is to support what you're saying, which is, geez, if this is the progression for a lot of different disease processes, do we really need to know the name of the disease?
You don't.
I mean,
if you want to treat, and you're thinking, I want to treat, absolutely, you need to know what to treat. But if you're like, this is end of life, we're going to do basic tests, but we're not going to do extensive tests. I always tell people that's absolutely fine. Then the key is watching your dog. And I wonder if some of it, you tell me, was, if you thought, well, it's just a dementia or a senility, then maybe you're not so anxious to be like, maybe you weren't expecting to have such a bad day that last day.
No, we weren't. And that's exactly it. And, now I realize that dementia or senility could have been secondary, not primary, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking that too, with how fast, and we don't usually see appetite loss. I mean, dogs get confused just like people and don't know to eat towards the end, but it is like people, where it is a longer process if that's just what it is.
Yeah. So on Monday, she wasn't taking food at all. Like, not even, couldn't entice the breakfast. The original 10 ounces that were in the bowl set there, like, and she just laid down in the living room instead of, she just laid down in the living room.
Oh, wow. A big change. And the day before, she had been out playing ball?
Yeah. I mean, she played a little. She played on Monday too. She'd go out and play ball, but I mean, the inside behavior, she'd still go out and play ball. Yesterday.
That's good to share that, because that's what I think confuses people. That, well, she's still getting up to play ball. It's not time.
So yesterday, when we had already made the decision, and it was just, and the hard part was, like, originally it was like I called first thing yesterday morning, and the first person, first company I reached, they were like, oh, we got 6 to 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, I don't want to wait that long, and it was for her, obviously. And then I found somebody who could come at 4, so so now I'm got till 4 o'clock.
And just so everyone knows, this is the Tuesday after the Monday.
Yes.
I don't know what day it is for us. But so Monday, she stopped eating. Tuesday morning, what did she look like?
I would say she ate a little bit.
Okay, she ate a little bit on Monday.
Ate a little bit on Monday, probably about normally 23 ounces, what we figured was the healthy amount. She probably ate a third of that. That was it.
Okay.
And begrudgingly.
And what did she look like on Tuesday morning?
So on Tuesday morning, well, I mean, it's all night. She was up all night in a bed with us, panting.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Awake. She didn't have the strength. She barely had the strength to stand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to lift her up onto the bed. She couldn't jump up onto the bed at all. Monday should have been the day.
Well, and this is exactly what I tell people is you were kind of in this like period. I don't know what we want to call that period where you're like, I know we're going to have to do it, but she's coping, she's bright. And what I tell people is the yes, when you soon as you have the we'll call it turn the corner. As soon as you have something, and it doesn't have to be the same thing. It's not going to be one specific sign, but you're going to know it. You're going to say today looks different than the last couple weeks.
Yeah. And, frankly, I'm not sure. I mean, she was certainly there with me on Monday, but on Sunday, just to go back, on Sunday, I knew we were getting close just from our
little turn.
From our conversations. And my wife wasn't there yet.
Yeah, I hear that a lot with couples or family members. Yeah.
And I guess my advice there is, in this case, it's the yes wins, right? If one of you says yes, the other one says no. The worst case scenario is you're a day or two early.
Right.
Right? But if the no rules, I promise you that day late.
It's a distressing day. And I want to hear more about that day for you, because that is what, why do I make it such a big deal for one day? It's because I hear the distress in my friends or my clients' voices when they're like, I knew it was a bad day when you're texting me. I don't want to go all day. I know it's a bad day. I know what that feels like. And so that's why I give these tools and tips, because it may seem like what's one day, it is miserable to watch your dog in distress for a whole day.
Yeah, I thought I'd be better at this than I am.
I've done the same thing. I think I was probably 10 years into being a home euthanasia vet, and I definitely went at least a day too long for one of my cats. And if I had done it the week earlier, I had said to a colleague, should I just be doing this? And she said, no, you don't have to do it yet. Which is true. I didn't have to do it yet, but had I done it that week earlier, kind of like we were talking about, so what if it was a few days early? And even looking back, I'm not sure that's really early. He definitely had a miserable last 24 hours. Really, really bad.
Yeah.
So I've done it too.
So probably, 9, 10 o'clock at night after we're in bed already on Monday, we're like, listen, we got to do this. And God, wish we could do it now. Wish we could do it now.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. And I just thought of this. Reach out early. Just find out what's our policies. Can they come in the middle of the night? Can they do that? Right. Because Gunnar, who I've just mentioned, he had cancer. We ended up having to take him to a 24-hour ER, and now they're grilling us. And get this, they're grilling us to make sure that we're not just trying to get rid of a dog, right? And God, that's terrible, right?
Yeah.
That the world is such that they have to do that.
Yeah.
But for us, this is such an agonizing thing to go through. It's like, can't you see how bad he's doing, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go through that. Mm-hmm. This is my third in-home euthanasia, and is so far superior. As tough as it was waiting, so far superior than having to go to a vet and do it there. So
I will say, if people do reach out to me early and ask what my policy is, and it's a great, I would say, red flag, because then I start having that talk with them. I don't want you to wait till the last minute. If they say, can you come in the middle of the night? Can you come last minute? That's a good time for me to start having the conversation. Don't wait for that. Don't try to wait for that, because when you do, it's really hard. I will also say, while in-home euthanasia is amazing, if your pet, I want anyone who's watching, if your pet is in distress, don't wait. There are certain emergencies, especially ones where they're having trouble breathing, do not wait, because it'll get bad. Your pet could suffocate before the euthanasia veterinarian can get there. So that's something I'm going to be sharing on the channel too, is that, this is for people who if you don't want to have an emergency euthanasia, that's what these tips are. If you're okay with, I want to wait till the last minute, and if it means running to the ER, you have a right to do that. But for those of us who don't want to do that, then doing it that day too soon, what feels like too soon. And I'll say, in my experience, I mean, you have it now because you see the next day. You didn't know the next day was going to be worse, so there's that questioning. But in my experience, it's like, I know that day's going to be worse, so go ahead and do it. It's not too soon, you know?
Yeah. No, I knew the next day was going to be worse. You know, you see the ball rolling downhill. There's no doubt it's not leveling out, much less going uphill for a little bit. This was the end. We knew that Monday night. It was, if she was suffering worse, more visibly, I should say, because you really don't know. But her breathing wasn't labored. You know, there was no whimpering. There was no signs of real pain. You know, but she was clearly in distress, and we were up throughout the night. Monday night to Tuesday, and first thing Tuesday morning, I'm on the phone with the first service, who couldn't get there till that night, and then I kept looking, got secured the actual appointment, and for most of the day she didn't eat. I think Kathleen gave her some cookies with peanut butter, and she might have eaten one or two sort of things, but like I tried giving her one later on, she was like, no. I actually did get out, to play with her. She had to go outside. You want the ball? And she kind of looked at me like, yeah, for old time's sake. And, I mean, I just tossed it like two little tiny feet, and she caught it. And she was all excited, not like she had been, but you could see that this was sort of.
And I think that's important for people to know, because that's the moment that make people cancel. They see that spark in their dog's eye, and you're sharing a story of a dog that's going downhill and still going to have a spark when she sees the ball.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dave.
That's okay.
I know you loved her so much. Absolutely.
At any rate, yeah, I was just thinking, because I got video of that.
Oh, good.
I had my phone with me. I'm like, oh, this is our last moments. Play.
Yeah. I remember those, yeah.
So as time approached, she just lay down in her favorite spot in the living room and sat there with me and my wife as we ignored the TV that was on. I couldn't work.
Yeah.
And, the doc came over and, was just compassionate and caring. And, we said our goodbyes, and it was handled. And
yeah.
That was that.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. But I really appreciate you sharing your story, because it's a really common. It's so common. And like you're saying, you were like, I knew, and even like you said, you knew, but then your wife wasn't ready, and that can be hard for people.
And let's be fair. Yes, I knew, and I didn't know. Like, I'm like, we're getting there. But was it a week? Was it a day?
That's what. Yes, and that's why I want people to know that turn. That the day that you're like, because it was a couple weeks, and then the day where you're like, this is a little bit different, and it just has to be a little bit different. I tell people they're 2 days. They're within 2 days at that point, and it's been really consistent when I talk to people, and sometimes it's less. I tell people 12 to 48 hours. But I totally understand why you would wait, because you're thinking, like you said, could it be a week? What if, what if she had another good week?
Yeah.
And I, what? All I can do is tell people the information, and it's pretty consistent that once they take that turn, you're 12 to 48 hours before you're in that distress. And then it's got to be a personal decision what people want to do with that.
And I would just urge, if you're watching this, you care about your dog, right? Or your cat. You love them. That's why you're watching this. You want to do right by them. Again, a day too short is better than a day too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we even say in vet medicine, a week too early is better than a day too late. So even if you're thinking, gosh, it could be a week, and like we're discussing, it's usually not even the week. But if you think it could be a week, you're still better off than risking that day.
I have no argument on that whatsoever. None.
Well, I hope this talk with Dave and stepping back and seeing the whole picture helps you navigate what's going on with your own pet. Because I know even personally, when you're dealing with the day-to-day, the subtle changes day-to-day. We're looking at those micro changes. We really need to step back and see the progression, especially when we're in those last few weeks. Any small change could be the sign that distress is around the corner. Please share our videos with others so they can prevent going through that last stressful day or two with their pet. We're going to try to get this message out. I also have the videos that Dave mentioned available for purchase on my website. It's a complete guide to assessing quality of life and pain in your pet. It gives you everything you need to know in 5 short videos.